have all grown up here in Ashland, Oregon, which is pretty much by every standard a bubble. It is a predominantly white, upper middle class, very liberal little town right on the edge of California. The thing that shocked most of us about the election is how normalized hate speech has become, how using racial slurs or mocking someone with a disability or using sexist innuendos, all of those things have kind of been normalized on the political trail. And
well, we live in a community that's predominantly not affected by that rhetoric, and because of that, it's especially important for us to stand up and say that that's not right. Because it would be easier to not speak about it. It would be easier just to remain totally neutral and not affirm what we've affirmed in the letter. But I think as allies, that is our duty to say, what we stand for, even though on the national stage we see certain behaviors. We're not saying that's okay at Ashland. All this election has done is validate that, and that's what we're worried about. Mm-hmm. We use the word presidential to mean acceptable or something to be looked up to. And so when our students and our younger siblings and our younger community members are seeing this kind of behavior as acceptable or something to aspire to, we worry about how people are going to behave. Because that's not right. It's not acceptable.
Yeah, and while we've witnessed mostly liberal opinions in our high school, it still exists. Trump supporters are predominantly voicing their opinion now at our high school. And while we stand for political diversity and accepting opinions, along with that is the acceptance of all races, of all voices, of all people, of gender, sexuality, race, class, anything.
We're not saying that one candidate has a right and the other one doesn't. We are disgusted in general with the way the campaign went, the entire campaign. Mm-hmm. Now, we would like to remind students that we encourage political discourse on campus, but when political discussions turn personal or political opinions are rooted in someone else's, like a disgust for someone else's humanity, we don't tolerate that. And that's no longer a political discussion or an opinion. That's just hateful. And what I worry about is that with the fact that during this election we've seen the concept of consent ridiculed on the national stage. So one of the really concrete ways in which we combat this kind of behavior on campus is we have a campaign. It's a student-led campaign called Got Consent. And today students actually have their red Got Consent shirts on and their bracelets, as you can see here, on to support this campaign, which is all
the elementary school kids. We want them, instead of looking up to presidential candidates who are who are mocking people for the way they look, the way they are, just the general way of being human, we want them to see leaders both in the Ashland community and in the United States at large who are being positive leaders in showing that oppression is something that you can always stand up in the face against. How that's kind of been the tone of the election, and we're not willing to see any of that at Ashland High School.
And while we remind people that political views and political expression is totally accepted and welcome at our school, the point where it gets personal, where it gets degrading to someone's race, class, gender, sexuality is where it's not tolerated at the school and from the student leaders.
We were really surprised that it's kind of taken off and so many people have heard about it. People were just talking about it today in health class, that they had seen it on Facebook and didn't even relate it back to me. So it's gone out there. It's not just us anymore. It's people reposting it. And, yeah.
Excellent.
I love high-fiving. Let's do it again.
I know, this is the best. Good job.